Hey there, Eurus here, and welcome to Community Life. Here we talk with the amazing humans from the community world about their life journeys and learn from each other. Today we have a conversation with Mathew Krawczyk, a community strategist and designer, an embodiment and deep transformation coach who loves co-creating systems in which we can all thrive together. So, hello, Mathew.
Hey, you nailed that. I'm surprised. And my last name, like off to a great start.
You're from Poland. I know how it works. So on your Instagram, it's written just being my highest self. So what does it mean for you to be your highest self?
Oh, coming with the hard questions. So for me, I would say I often feel as if I try to bridge like these really exciting realities with where we currently are. So for me, that's an exciting thing, like envisioning what's possible for myself, for those around me, and then going through different practices to really bring that in. So being my highest self is being open, being expansive, being full of energy, being clear in thought and mind, just being able to be as energetic as possible, but as connected as possible to others. So really like raising the energy really in the space and
Is it
keeping
even
that up, being
possible?
sustainable as well, like keeping it sustainably, not crashing after, but keeping that for as long as I can day in and day out.
As long as I can. So that's the main thing. So I'm curious, is it even possible to have this mindset all the time?
Yeah, I think so. I think it really comes down to rituals and different routines that you have. So often, we have the world coming in at us, different things are happening, work and family and all these things. But making sure that we have rituals and routines that really keep us grounded and kind of connected to that flow of energy. When we get disconnected, that's when we're tired and our mind is foggy. So being able to co-create those things for ourselves, like whatever it works, could be meditation, could be going on a run, could be a cold shower, could be fasting, whatever works for you, or just being around the right people sometimes brings that out in you. So finding what works and making sure that every day you tap into those routines, and then you always kind of align yourself back to that flow of energy, essentially, like stepping back into it.
What rituals do you have on daily basis? What is something that you follow day to day, every day, no matter what?
So I always make sure that I get enough sleep, or at least I try, because I think sleep is the foundation. And if I don't get sleep, I'm like, ugh, I'm all over the place. So sleep is one for sure. The next one is I meditate in the morning. So I always try to kind of get my thoughts, my feelings together and project them through the day. So get really excited for what's coming, and potentially who I'm like connect with the people who I'm going to see that day, but before it happens. Uh, After that, I tend to like later in the day, I tend to take a cold shower. I
Hmm.
love cold showers. So that just if there's any tension or any heaviness, it's gone. So that's just a huge boost of energy. And then also like fasting. So I started several years ago, but that also just keeps me really light and I eat in the afternoon. So whenever I do anything for most of the day, it's just a laser beam of focus.
Wow.
And then later in the day, I kind of start doing all the other things, eating and that kind of fun stuff. But yeah,
How do you have fun?
how do I have fun? Wow, that's a great question. First of all, I like to be tapped into having a lot of energy because then I can do all the things. Spending time with friends for sure. Traveling, like those are my fun things. It's kind of taking the energy and then going into the world doing stuff. So being able to share that with friends, going on adventures, being active. So going on runs is fun for me. I don't know, just expression of that energy. And then I like creating systems, which sounds maybe not your typical like, what's a fun Sunday afternoon? But for me, just thinking about, patterns and how things are connected and how I can connect things better, to me, it feels like this artistic flow that I get really excited about. And my girlfriend often thinks like, how is that fun for you? But I love it. Like it's my favorite thing.
Are you into statistics?
Yes, yes, but not, I guess, as heavily as people would normally be. Like, I like reading as much as I can about any topic and just diving into all of the data, statistics or not, and then starting to piece things together, both kind of logically and intuitively. So, statistics can play a part in it, but maybe not fully like going through the, national statistics of birth rates and like things of that nature.
You know what I noticed when I talk to different people, when I read different books, when I see different stuff around, even when I watch different movies, I see all those small pieces here and there, here and there. And then without me even thinking about, without me even knowing, somehow it creates a bigger picture in my mind. So something that you are talking about, that you are not like really into like sitting and like going through numbers, but seeing things and connecting them. So I wonder how it works for you. So does it mean that you, I don't know, create some notes and then go through those notes, or is it works also in the same in the similar way that works for me, that you are just gathering as much information as possible and then somehow something like lightening up in you?
Yeah, I think it's more of a process of soaking it all in. And then oftentimes I'm like a very spatial person. So I kind of map it out in my mind. And then if it's really complex, there's too many pieces, then it feels really nice to write it on paper, like
Mm.
having a little notebook and then starting to sketch things out. Or, yeah, it depends to what degree I need to, but I like holding it inside of myself. There's this like cosmos of ideas, and then you slowly connect them and you feel into them. Like what resonates and what doesn't. So I think there's an intuitive component that helps when you're doing it internally. Um, yeah, I'd say that's my go-to.
You know, sometimes when people have many ideas, the hardest part is to act on them. So how do you decide what idea to act on?
Ooh. So this has definitely been a learning journey for me. I think in the past, especially growing up, but for many years, I was I'd say yes to everything, which was difficult because there's so many great people around, and they're like, hey, you want to go do this, or you want to try out this idea, and I wanted to connect with them, and I wanted to help them, and I was interested. It was like a learning journey. So I would say yes to too many people and to too many ideas, and then the anxiety was through the roof. So over the years, I've gotten better at figuring out what I really enjoy and then creating boundaries around those things. So I can say, you know, this is the time that I have to do this. This is the time I have to help other people, and then really delineating where my time and my energy goes, which can be difficult to to say no. But I think over time it's been clear, and the more you build it up for yourself, I think the right people also come to you with the right ideas, as opposed to when you're younger and you're kind of searching those ideas out a bit more. So I think it's not easy, but yeah, it's between saying yes and no to different things throughout the day.
You reminded me of this movie, Yes Man, with Jim Carrey, when he was saying like yes to everything, and like life put him in like crazy situation, and then he learned how to say no, and then like it was so fun. I didn't think about this movie as a learning curve, because I was like, oh yeah, it's just fun comedy, and then at the end of the day, I was like, oh yeah, exactly. Saying too much yes, like you won't have time to do anything at all, and still you're told that it's difficult for you to say no. So how do you say no?
Oh, I guess it's contextual. I guess I I think the easiest way for me to do it so far is not always to say no off the bat, but
Mhm.
it's to, with the other person, align on the end goal of something. So either the end goal that I have or that they have, and then kind of work toward how we can do that best. So I don't know if I can give you an exact example here, but I think it's if somebody understands why you can't do something, right? Why it may not align with what you're up to, then they understand. Or if you can help them see things a different way, then it also doesn't come across as a no, but it's, hey, I have the intention of actually, supporting you, but I can do it in this way instead because it
Mhm,
aligns
mhm.
with me as well. So still, not a wall. It's like, no, absolutely not. Like I don't have time for this. But holding the space for them to still be supportive, but in the way that makes sense for you and for them in the end.
And I feel like, showing additional perspective is also very important for people, because sometimes they don't know that something can be solved in another way. And sometimes when somebody come to me with some request like right away, even if I'm answering like a few hours later, it solves the problem. And you're like, oh yeah, I already found it out. So it was like this impulse, like to do something. And for me, like, oh my God, I have to help them right away. And then like, maybe not. So I totally, okay. So let's move to yourself. And let's start from the beginning. Tell me about your parents. Who are they?
Oh my God. So we're going deep here. So my parents, they both grew up in Poland. So one grew up in Warsaw and one grew up kind of in the south of Poland. They grew up around communism, I guess. So it's quite difficult, but they My dad ended up moving to Canada, and then he brought my mom over in the early days, right around the fall of the Berlin Wall. And then they had me quite quickly in Canada, I guess. I was just born there. And yeah, so they came over, and actually my first language, I think we talked about this in the past, is actually Polish, which is kind of crazy, but they came over and they didn't know much English to start off with. Like they knew enough, but it's just always at home easier to speak Polish. So I started speaking Polish, they sent me to daycare, started speaking English right away, and then kind of had that dual. But yeah, they're both teachers. So they both teach. My mom teaches in Detroit, because we live near the border, and then my dad teaches in Windsor. So yeah. I don't know. Is that enough context? I don't know how deep we want to go here.
How does it feel to have both parents teachers?
You know what? I don't think I've really considered it enough. In my perspective, I'm just excited that they do what they like to do, you know? So it's not necessarily about the career that they have, but just that they found something that they like and that they enjoy day in and day out. And to me, that makes me happy. Like they can both be astronauts, and as long as they're happy, or like, you know, whatever career it is, then I would be quite happy about that. But they are very busy. That's the only thing about teaching I think people don't realize, is that you're really busy for most of the year because you're, you know, marking things after work and on the weekends, and then you finally have summer, which is, you know, a great rest. But throughout the year, I mean, they're both so busy all the time that I do feel for them, definitely.
Did they give you some tips and tricks on how to learn better?
I don't think directly, but I think since I was a kid, they were very adamant about putting me into as many different like sports and extracurriculars as humanly possible. Like looking back, I never took a rest as a kid. It was like school and then after school sports and then like karate and then after karate swimming, and then you get home and you're dead basically. You just fall asleep. So I think from that perspective, like indirectly, they were always making me experience new things and to learn new things and to push myself through things that were difficult, which has definitely carried on after, you know, as I grew up and I moved out. It was always trying new things and not really being afraid of it, because I was like, oh, I've done so many new things. Like this is just exciting rather than, you know, scary.
Do you have one thing or something that you keep doing since the time you were a kid? I mean, like karate or swimming or something like that.
I would say running. I have slowed down a little bit recently. I've taken a bit of a break, but I still run here and there. But that's something I've done since I was about, I think 6 or 7 years old. I started running competitively, just long distances. And that for me was always this magical space of, now looking back, it was almost like a meditative state of flow, because you run so much that you get to this runner's high and things are very clear and, you know, open, all the energy is flowing through. So I think that was very clearing for me. But I did that for a long time competitively. And then even, you know, when I moved around, I moved to other countries, it was always something that grounded me into, no matter what chaos was happening in the world, I could go for a run and I would feel like myself again. And I would have a clear picture of what I had to do next and what I had to action. So I'd say that's definitely one thing.
Running competitively. So who were your competitors?
So when I was running, it was around grade school and high school. So it was just other kids essentially just
Okay.
running around. But you know, you'd run 5K, 7K, 10K, or more kind of races. Yeah, it's longer distance.
How many medals do you have?
So I must preface, I am not like an Olympic runner. I want to say I ran competitively. I'm amazing, but it was more for me than winning. I won third place once when I was younger, like out of like the region that I lived in. But after that, I didn't medal. Some of the competitors got so good, I was like, "You're not human." And for me, I was like, "I'm just going to stay in my lane and continue running at my own pace."
I'm just continue having my own fun. Yeah, go
Yeah,
have your own
exactly.
fun. I'm having my own fun.
Exactly.
What was your favorite video game when you were a kid?
Oh, this is, I get excited. This is a really good question. I loved video games as a kid. I had so many, you know, Nintendo was a huge one for me. So I had so many games on Nintendo, like Zelda was classic, Firefox, I don't know if you remember that. With friends, GoldenEye, 007 GoldenEye. that was the best experience with friends where, you know, now you have multiplayer, you're in different places, but you had split screen with like 2 or 3 people and you can kind of cheat by looking at their screen. And it was just, the suspense was amazing. So those are probably my favorite ones, to just sit around with friends and to have a laugh for sure.
And I feel like it's totally different experience, you know, when you sit exactly together with your friend, because currently you can still play with your friend. And my kid is playing with his friends and they're playing like in different parts of the world. And it's so weird. And like, and they still having this conversation. It kind of feels like they play together, but still like they're not together. And yeah, I totally remember this experience when you're sitting together and then like, you know, you're just making a sneak peek into like, but you have one screen, you know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah, but
impossible not to
you can't
cheat.
not look
So
somewhere
yeah,
else. You know, it's like
it,
your eye naturally sees everything. So
that's how it
yeah.
works. It's like human eyes works. And
What about you?
I,
Were there any games that you used to play back then?
you know, I remember the Sega games, and I remember it definitely duck shooting. So, but I I didn't have this console myself, so my friends had those consoles, and I came to them to play. And sometimes I just borrowed from them to play on my TV. It was very, like, not that many times, but then. And I also remember that we were playing Contra. It was this game when you have this two like Rambo look like men, and they were just shooting everywhere. And it was amazing that they could play together. It was like one of the best things. But it was like very, very long time ago. And when the computer, when the PC came out, I remember it was all about FIFA, you know, and like it was
Yeah.
playing football. And the fun thing, I really learned how to play, okay, how the people call it soccer. Yeah, not football. I learned how to play soccer by playing it on the computer. And basically, I saw all the tricks that I was doing like while playing. And then I was just going out into the field and try those tricks. And it's fun because um, people ask me like, "Hey, did you go to any sections or something like that?" No, I just played FIFA on the computer.
Yeah, the Academy of FIFA.
Yeah, it was really great, and it was nice to, you know, kind of like, and definitely Need for Speed and all those stuff, because you just, and definitely Command and Conquer when you just play this. I feel like you know all of those games. So I wonder, are you playing video games as a grown up kid?
So there was a huge lag. I think the last system I had was like PlayStation 3, like a very, very long time ago. And then, you know, life caught up and school and university and work and all of those things. But last year I had this pull over time where I really wanted to reconnect with some of those, you know, those games and those memories. So last year I did end up buying a Switch, which
Mm.
was, I don't know. It felt so comforting because it has so many old games, like Mario games and those things. And they also have some Nintendo games that are the really old school games. And I think some of the Sega things that you can actually play on there, like you can download them. So I was like, I have to do this. Like I just have to relive my childhood. So I did, and I do have some of those games. I don't play it that often, but yeah, it feels really nice. It feels very heartwarming to play that. I've been trying to convince some friends to also get it because you can, like, you know, like you said, you can play from a long distance. And I have a lot of friends back in Canada. So it would be nice to play those games that we did as a kid now. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But at the moment, I do have it. Yeah.
How do you feel about experiencing something new?
I love it. I think it's almost like the point of life, basically, to experience the things and share the things, and everything's an experience. So I think it just depends how we allow it to kind of, you know, allow ourselves to dive into it. Either we're kind of hardened and we let things kind of push them away, or we dive in or we search for them. So yeah.
Do you even have a comfort zone?
Yeah, I do. No, that's a great question. The balance between me, I think, being really energetic is I also like to have a lot of quiet time. Like I love deep work where nobody's around for a while. I do work from home most of the time, which has been a blessing. I've realized since I've moved to London for several years now that I'm an introvert, and I didn't know that, which is crazy.
Really?
Yeah, I
Really?
grew up. Yeah, it was a big shift for me because I think a lot of friends back home in Canada think that I'm an extrovert because I was always out, I was always doing things. But when I came here and I didn't know many people and I was home more often, I started to lean into it and I almost felt guilty staying at home and doing things and, watching movies. And over time, it's kind of chipped away. And I realized, yeah, I'm actually an introvert, but I love also being around people at times. So there is that balance. And I think my comfort zone is more, if I do have a comfort zone, it's being at home and having that time to reconnect and ground. And then I go out into the world and I'm all like that.
I feel like you're becoming British, because I talked to some people who also went to live in the UK from different countries, and then like I was always asking like, what is the difference between living like in your country and in the UK? And then like, oh, people are much more into themselves here, so they are much more into like their own things, and it's almost impossible to go and talk to somebody on the street because it's like bad manners or something like that. So yeah, I feel like you're becoming British.
There could be something. I don't know how you feel about this, but I have a keen sense that different places have a different energy to it. It's like a
Yeah.
soup, right? And some places feel very open, some places feel a bit more dense, but they're all different flavors, like different cities, different countries, different cultures. And I feel like a lot of North America is very spacey and airy. And maybe you come across that too when you meet a lot of people from North America. They talk louder, they're more like out.
Yeah.
I think Europeans are a bit more grounded in general, which I like the mix of both energies, like both parts of myself. And maybe that's why I gravitated here to kind of ground myself and be a bit more introverted. But the UK does have like a really refreshing energy, but it is a more grounded, bit more introverted energy for sure, for sure.
You talked about deep work, so I wonder, how do you get lost in the flow?
So I would say that the rituals that I have in the morning, I'm very precious about this. So uh, I'm a huge proponent of working from home now. Even when colleagues are like, hey, come to the office, I come once in a while, but there's just this flow of getting enough sleep, of meditating, having a cold shower, like just being so ready, and then having nobody around, making a cup of coffee, and then just doing it. Like I don't know, it's like this momentum that builds, like you're revving an engine and you keep picking up speed. And then when I finally hit whatever work it is in front of me, and I know that I have multiple hours, I can get lost in it. I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's it's one of my favorite things. I think it's you're like connecting with this thing that you have to do. And for me, it feels like play almost, like especially when it's strategy and
Mm.
systems. It's just uh you're excited about it, you're clear, and you just have like this puzzle in front of you that you have to figure out. And for me, that's the excitement. So when I have multiple hours, it's you can think about it and then maybe even you walk around the house a little bit to clear your mind and you go back and you have an idea and it's a play, it's like a sculpture that you're kind of, molding and crafting.
What can get you back out of the flow?
Text messages for
Okay,
sure.
that's how it works.
Yeah,
Social
text messages.
media.
Yeah. Text messages, Slack messages for sure. I really try to, and it's really hard during the day for sure when you're working, but I really try to section some time so I don't check. Like I'll close the Slack app for like half an hour. I know if somebody needs me, so I'll go on like every half an hour if I need to, but I'll try to find times. Sometimes even in the evening when people don't expect that I'm working, I'll work then because I know that nobody expects anything from me. So, or if I'm kind of doing my own side things, I'll do it at like midnight to 2 a.m. and it's just peace and quiet. So sometimes I have to get sneaky about when I do my own things, but I know that nobody will interrupt. And yeah.
That's why it's hard to work with the US from Europe, because US never sleeps, at least
Yeah.
for Europe,
That's yeah, exactly. So when I'm doing a lot of projects, most of them are US based recently. So it kind of works in a way, but then also now I have to shift sometimes and do it in the morning before a lot of my colleagues or customers will come on. So that also works. So it's like the game. You try to find the quiet moments to do the things. But yeah, as you mentioned, it's mostly text and Slack messages. It's just things that throw you off that you weren't expecting. You're like, oh, okay, like I think I'll do this thing now.
What is the backstory of your Sahara journey? Why did you want to go there?
Adventure. I think I love getting lost in new places, but going for a while and almost like losing yourself, right? Like we have this identity in the place that we are. And I find sometimes when we go on a quick holiday, we let go of that a little bit and we have some fun. But when we go for a while and we go to a place that's really different, I feel like we almost find a different part of our identity that we didn't know existed. So something about the Sahara for me was it just seemed so different and I didn't know what to expect and I didn't know who I would find there, like myself. So yeah, I went like 3 weeks with a friend essentially, and we were backpacking together through Spain and we decided to go through Morocco for a while. And it was very much a letting go and figuring out what happened. Like there was no set plan. We had ideas of where to go, but yeah, eventually we just ended up in the Sahara. And funnily enough, we ended there at the wrong time. We When we were heading down to Morocco, our plan was to somehow end up in the Sahara. But we actually met a guy from Morocco in Spain, and he said, "Where are you going?" And we said, "Morocco." And he said, "Why would you ever go there now?" And we're like, "I don't know. Like we have time." And it was basically the heat of summer. And he's like, everybody in Morocco tries to leave now because it's too hot. So we went into like, the heat of it. And it was, yeah, it was an experience. It was like 50 degrees Celsius at sometimes. We were melting. Like it was, yeah, it was exceptional. So we found ourselves in more ways than one. And even in a sandstorm at one point. Like it was just, yeah, it was kind of wild.
Did you find your treasure during this alchemist journey?
The funny thing is I was reading The Alchemist when we were there. So I think I did. I think it was funny because a lot of things in the book paralleled that adventure. And when we were like really far, like we took a trip into the Sahara and there was nobody, usually there's a bunch of tourists that go, but there was nobody there because it was the wrong time, the wrong season. So it was us. And then at one point there was another couple, but for the most part, it was just us and the guide. So at one point in the trip, we went even further into the desert to meet some Bedouins there. And I think I probably found myself when we were there disconnected from basically, modern civilization and just seeing how people were living. And yeah, we didn't have any technology on us, which is refreshing. It was all nature. Like you just feel, oddly enough, in the Sahara, I just felt like I was in the ocean because there's just nature everywhere and the sand was like an ocean. And then there was a sandstorm and I thought we were going to die. So I think like a lot of those moments together it made me really present. I think that was what the trip brought out. And that was probably the gem of it, is being really present with each other and reading things like The Alchemist and thinking about it. I think I was also reading The Power of Now. So all of these things converging on just being present and, being one with nature, being one with like another, like a friend. Yeah, I would say that's probably some of the gems that were found there.
What would you do if you found the Philosopher's Stone?
I think I already have. I think you have too. I think you are the Philosopher's Stone. Like you are, it's within you, Like when you tap
Wow.
into yourself and you realize that you can create your reality in a way or co-create your reality. I think that is the Philosopher's Stone, right? Like you can do so many different things in your life at any moment. Like you could leave this podcast right now and jump on a plane and go to like Antarctica and explore that. Like you could do it, right? Like that to me is, you can transform your reality at any point with a number of decisions or ideas. So I think the search is over, essentially.
I also feel like, like when you told me about this, I kind of yes and kind of no, because there are always, two sides of the coin. And I feel like you reminded me the boy from this alchemy story. And I reminded myself the Englishman who was like reading books and like who wanted to find this alchemist, who wanted to do, and then like alchemist told him like he on the right way, but he has to do some stuff yet. So I feel like No, I have to do some stuff before getting to there. So I feel like I'm getting there. So, and it's interesting that you already got there. It's so fun. It's so interesting. And I would love to learn from you. How do you, I don't know, like what was the craziest, the most spontaneous thing that you've recently done?
Recently. Oh, I don't know. Okay, I wouldn't say recently. There's a lot of parts to this. I'd say there are sections of my life where I do a lot of crazy spontaneous stuff that's like outwardly spontaneous. Um, since I moved to London, I've been kind of slowly creating this new reality for myself that's much bigger than my current reality. And what that takes is a lot of deep work. So the spontaneity is more of like a focused spontaneity, if that makes sense, like latching onto the ideas that make sense for me and building them out into new systems that will make my new life and my new lifestyle. So it's been a very like monk sort of existence the last few years, which is a different sort of, in my mind, spontaneity. But the typical spontaneity, like I've had a lot of chapters of that in the past, and the tide will come again when in this new chapter of life where I will be doing that a lot and traveling and buying tickets like randomly to whatever place. Like that is my favorite thing to do for sure. Is just you don't know where you're gonna go, you put on some stuff, and then you go on Ryanair or something and just book like the cheapest ticket. Like that's so fun. At least for Europeans, it's really easy.
Yeah. What is one place that you're always happy to come back to?
Um, hmm. I'd say Gran Canaria. I think I lived there for a while, and there was this magical energy there, and there was the ocean and the mountains and forests, and there was just this connection there that is really refreshing. Like I go there and it feels like home. Um, just hiking all day. I would say that's probably I could go there anytime. And I think about it often, especially, when you have a challenging day, I'm like, oh, it'd be so nice to go home like for a little bit.
What does it mean for you to feel like home?
I think grounded. I think in my heart, I would say that from my experiences at least, the times where I feel not at home is when there are too many ideas, there are too many things, there are too many, worries, whatever it may be. And it's often a thing in the mind, right? We're like thinking and we're like projecting ourselves into too many places, but we're not here. So I think feeling at home is for me being grounded, like
Mm.
being in the heart. Because I think, and once again, I'm saying think, where like our culture is very much around thinking and achieving through thinking, but we don't talk enough about being in the heart, and that's often being in the body. Like we need to, how do we feel again? Like when we feel, that means that we're actually in the body and we're actually grounded and we're here in the moment with another person, or in front of our work or whatever it may be. So I think home from that perspective is being in the body and being in the heart as a kind of center to doing everything else.
I have this guest question. So somebody on a previous episodes asked this question. What is something you learned during the last year that may feel like a secret superpower for you now?
Something that I've learned in the last year. I think being very clear about boundaries, I think is important. And it's been a learning journey. It's not just this last year, but I think in this last year it's really helped shift things for me. And when I mean boundary, I don't mean like, hey, I won't, like we were talking about before, like, hey, I won't do this, I
Yeah,
can't do this.
yeah,
It's more of this is where I'm at in every moment and being able to communicate that to others of where I currently am. And the decisions I'm making are aligned with that sort of boundary. So if I'm, really focusing on building out this thing, then I have a kind of boundary around that. Like this is my mission, my vision, my goal, and then communicating that out so others know, either to join or to just communicate to them that I can't do that other thing right now. But that has been able to shift where my energy is, even more so to be super focused on the things that are most important. So and the boundary could be like sitting here right now with you, is creating that boundary where nothing else matters at the moment, and the most important thing is being present with you and having this conversation, and that allows, us to have the best conversation. So just
Yeah.
utilizing this in my mind, it's like a spatial thing, like a boundary around whatever the moment is, and just holding the right space. I think that has been a superpower to transition to different moments with different boundaries, and being able to be the best version of myself or the other person in that space.
You put it in the words exactly as I feel it. I've never told that, but every time I'm talking to a person, I'm first of all, I'm really curious about everything they say, and what helps it to exactly to be present. Nothing else matters. Nothing else exists at this moment. It's just you and me. We're just talking. We're just having fun, and like, yeah. So it's so interesting how you. Thank you very much for framing that for me. Because I felt this, but yeah. And it's weird, but just like that, I wish to have the sky as the limit to our conversation, but time is the limit. And let's jump to the rapid fire questions. So, video or text post?
Video.
Sea or desert?
See.
What are your favorite color and song?
Color, green maybe? Song? Oh, that's impossible. There's too many. I don't know.
If you were a superhero, what superpower would you have?
Time travel. Time travel.
Who do you learn from? Name just one person.
I think my grandmother.
Name two people who I should definitely reach out to and have this conversation with.
Oh, with rapid fire. Oh, that you really got me in the spot there. Uh, oh, I'm not good with rapid fire. I
You know
think
why it's rapid fire? Because it's on top of your mind. You don't have to think
there's
about
so
it.
many
You just
people.
shout it out.
I don't know. I don't know.
You know.
Oh no, you broke me. I gotta think about this one. I need to think about this one, I think. Yeah.
It's cheating. Okay, but it works. It works. Okay, easier question. Ask it forward. It's like pay it forward, but with questions. So ask a question a future guest will have to answer.
Hmm. What do you do to hold space for others? Like, what is your process for holding space for others?
Is there one question that I definitely should have asked you, but didn't?
When are we gonna meet next? I think.
Do you know? Can you see the future?
No, but we'll figure it out.
Would you like to have this power of seeing a future?
I don't think seeing the future, but I think popping into different futures would be fun. Just to keep the mystery of it a little bit, yeah.
Got it. Matthew, I already told you that when I first met you, I was like, oh, who is this so energetic and positive person? Like, definitely stands out of others. And today on this conversation, I got even more of that energy and more of this positivity and more of this mindset. And you struck me into the heart when you told about that. I already find and you already has yours, Philosopher's Stones, but it will definitely be with me. And yeah, thank you so much for allowing me to get a little bit into your life journey. And it's such a pleasure. I'm so happy to having this conversation. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for holding the space. It was a pleasure.
And yeah, see you in the community world.